the case was he already went through the courts in the UK for VAT fraud and money laundering, which accepted, and then he pleaded guilty. He paid back all the money and went to prison, and that was it. Okay,
right.
So that was some time ago. But funny enough, after X amount of time, after 4 years, don't ask me why Jersey, just 4 years after, start looking and searching and say, well, I'm sorry, there is money here that comes from this conduct, from these crimes, and then we're going to accuse you now for money laundering. And obviously the client is saying...
That had been part of what had happened in the UK.
Correct. That is being already dealt with. I did accept it. I agree. I pay all the money back. And I had my punishment, and I agree and accept it, and that was it, because I couldn't pay at the time about the VAT.
So by now he's living in Spain?
No, he was always living in Spain. He was living in Spain while everything happened. So this case happened, and this Jersey now start an extradition, because obviously he wouldn't go to Jersey. They wanted him to go there to be cross-examined and have a trial. And he said, well, no, I live in Spain. I've been always here in Spain more than 20 years. I have nothing to do with Jersey. The only thing is I transfer money to an international account, bank account in Jersey. And that was it. And the whole case was dealt in the UK, in England.
So you can't be tried for the same thing, surely?
Correct.
Can you?
That's the whole point here.
Double jeopardy.
Double jeopardy. That's the keys. So what happened? This Jersey start a freezing order to try to freeze anything in Spain, which obviously we start representing the client and we start defending him. That was the first approach from Jersey. Then secondly, they start an extradition, because he said he had video conference and he will never go to Jersey. So they start an extradition. To my knowledge, they did it incorrect, obviously, because they start through a procedure. And they started through a procedure saying when UK left the EU here, that divorce was with a treaty, which is what we call TACA, T-A-C-A, is an agreement, a trade agreement between EU and UK. Right. But it is excluded some of the, I think you call it the British Islands, yeah?
Okay.
So probably...
Channel Islands.
Yeah. So Jersey was excluded, technically. So they did request help through the UK authorities. They did ask for it. And the ministry, the magistrate that is in Madrid on a daily basis that works for the UK, is the middleman between UK and Spain for criminal actions, or probably civil, but I would say always more for criminal, obviously. Well, they understood by mistake that Jersey could ask for the extradition through that agreement. So the defense we had, obviously hiring a UK barrister, trying to prove that an affidavit of law in front of a public notary in the UK. So it's an affidavit from a barrister, actually, because Spain requires sign in front of a public notary and saying why this is wrong. Dual jeopardy. I mean, already committed, I pay for it, and I cannot go to jail twice. I cannot pay them for the same crime. Which is difficult to believe, isn't it, Carl, that these things still happen, you
Indeed.
know? You say,
although that mistake was made, believing that Jersey was part of the agreement as well.
That's what they understand. So they send it to this magistrate, that is the middleman. They accept it. Even the Spanish public prosecutor took it as valid.
Right.
And they started extradition. So we did contest it. One of the evidence that we had, which was a strong one, obviously, was the barristers from the UK. And the barristers said, I'm sorry, not only because the human rights prohibits the principle of nebis in idem, which is dual jeopardy, but obviously the TACA, which is the treaty, the actual treaty, does not allow it. Plus, the agreement from 1957, which was the original pre-EU, pre-Brexit, the original that Jersey had, because we're going back. I'll tell you a story.
We're going back to the legal precedent.
Because if this TACA is not applicable, it is
there
applicable.
Must be one that is
before.
Yeah.
So we start searching on the other one, and that's what we faced in Madrid the other day with the judge.
He must have loved this, the judge. It's one of those things where you go, what?
So what's going on here? What's going on? I mean, I wish they would have realised before to avoid us going to Madrid, because you could imagine me, even Chema from my law firm, and then the client, obviously going to Madrid just to face that. But anyway, the judge apologised and said, I'm sorry, we have found out, because they do present you with a claim, and then you have 3 days to contest. So thank God the client did their homework very well. Obviously, we did organise all these affidavit of law in the UK to prove what we're saying. Plus, they're a bit of a disaster sending, not knowing what treaty you should use.
Indeed.
So it's been literally, Carl, thrown out of court. But
so meanwhile, is your client going to go for some compensation here, or do you have to wait?
He already sent me the bill yesterday. He's saying, Ignacio, just go there. He said, well, you know what they're going to say? Spain is what it's going to say, but I say these are on writing. So once Spain says we're not going to pay, which is obvious, he will go to Jersey and say, now you pay me, which I agree. And say, what are you doing here?
Wow.
But you wouldn't, if you tell me, Ignacio, is it likely to happen, these kind of things? There is not likely. Not even 1% that a country makes such a mistake. You know?
No, that's quite surprising, but it's almost 2 countries making that mistake, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's, if it's Jersey and the UK.
Everyone in
that chain.
Because even when they did, it was one after the other one. And then the Spanish public prosecutor is still copy and paste the trade agreement without checking. So we did
3 effectively.
Sorry?
3 countries effectively.
Yeah. So it's a chain.
Yeah.
But I was telling to Chema yesterday, Sam, how important is when a client believes in justice in one thing, does his best to get all the evidence, because if I wouldn't have all the affidavit of law from the UK, from barristers as well, because Spain doesn't know about the law in the country. So you need to prove the law of the other country that is requesting. If we want to object something, you need to prove that. But it's not good enough to just attach a photocopy of something, You need to build it properly. And it was quite interesting, Cole. But the most important thing was to give the good news and let him go home,
absolutely.
And
it's almost a sense of injustice. Even though, originally guilty of a crime, but it comes back at you again, having already served. How quick does extradition work in Spain? Is it because we know a lot of other cases can take quite a long time? But extradition, if another country requests that, then is it?
It depends on treaties.
Situation?
It depends on treaties again. So now, how long is it going to take Jersey again to go back on here? Well, obviously longer than what they've done at the moment. Normally you will take an average of 4 months. Yeah, depending whether, because in some cases they arrest you straight away.
Indeed.
Actually, the whole case starts with arrest warrant, and then you have a hearing, and then lucky you if your lawyer is able to convince the judge to say, okay, I'll put my passport on bail, so I'll be on bail.
I would imagine, people under extradition are probably a flight risk.
Which we did, which was very good, because everything was very well prepared when he arrived with the order. The police arrived to his house. He gave us a ring, and that was excellent. So I'm so happy for him, because it's second round, and it's unfair, Carl.
Injustice.
You don't believe these things could happen. But if you, by any reason, did not even contest it, he will be already in Jersey and probably performing sentence.